Mr. Eigel, both of you have spoken about a desire to address crime and to keep your constituents safe. Let's talk about that mass shooting that happened back in February at the Chiefs Victory Rally. It killed one woman, a mother, a pillar of the community, hurt more than 20 others. Missouri gun laws allow concealed carry without a permit, and the 6 shooters involved that day could potentially use stand your ground laws in Missouri to dodge those charges. The school shooter at CVPA in St. Louis, too, also known to authorities, and his mother had begged police to address her concerns about mental health issues there, but they could not because Missouri has no red flag laws. So polls do show red flag laws and mental health background checks are widely popular across party lines. Since so many voters and police even support some of these ideas, is there any scenario where you would consider adopting any red flag laws?
We're not going to use these tragedies that are happening in our city to justify government going after the guns of our citizens. It's just not going to happen. I actually sponsored the bill in the Missouri Senate that would have outlawed these red flag databases because I think that's just an attempt by leftist government to go after guns of law-abiding citizens. We're just not going to let that happen. And I think there's a reason that we're continuing to see these tragedies occur in our urban areas that have soft on crime policies, our urban areas that are teaching their citizens and pushing to their citizens that life doesn't matter. There's a reason that the same access to firearms in suburban areas and rural areas doesn't seem the same kind of results of violent crime, and it's because we have leaders in St. Louis City and Kansas City that don't want to put bad guys in jail. So we are going to go after criminal activity. Where there's bad guys, the state and the local leaders are going to be expected to be involved. That's why I've called for tripling the highway patrol presence on the highways leading to and into and out of the cities where the crime is happening the most.
At a quick point of clarification, the day of that rally, we had 800 law enforcement officers there. So even with that many law enforcement officers present, that tragic shooting still occurred. We have heard from some law enforcement agencies who have said they would advocate for some red flag laws. And you've said you back the blue. So if you hear from law enforcement members who say we need this, is there any chance of changing your position?
Well, I've talked to a lot of law enforcement members myself, and I'm here to back the Second Amendment. We're going to protect the rights of our citizens. That's the proper role of government, and we're not going to use these tragedies as a way to let government in to come in and grab our guns.
Mr. Eigel, St. Louis police were recently able to disarm a man who had 2 guns. He was on the top of a parking garage. People were celebrating downtown during Independence Day. He was already wanted for shooting in Illinois, you may know. The only reason they were able to disarm the man is because of a local ordinance that requires a concealed carry permit to carry guns in the open. Without that ordinance, under current law, police say that they would have had to wait until after the shooter actually opened fire to detain him or disarm him. If police again themselves are asking for more tools to keep the public safe from gun violence, would you commit to law enforcement to help them in that?
So I want to make real clear, because it feels like the media often tries to drive a narrative that the reason we have violence in our cities has to do with guns and the materials and the tools that criminals are using to commit these crimes. And that's not the case. Criminals are committing crimes. We need to empower the police to go after them and put them in jail. I'm going to commit to law enforcement right now that I'm going to have their back by providing the resources if the mayor of the city of St. Louis or the mayor of Kansas City doesn't want to provide and support those officers. We're going to get behind them and make sure they have the tools to do the job that we desperately need them to do, particularly in the areas that are being hit the most by criminal activity.
And I apologize, not a narrative that I'm spinning, but that's what police were actually saying. So I want to be clear that I'm not spinning or trying to create any narrative for you tonight, sir. But a follow-up to that, it is law enforcement asking, as you said, resources. They're asking for that as a resource here in the city of St. Louis. They are asking for that as a tool.
I appreciate the statement there, but the reality is, in 5 minutes of debate, I've been asked more by members of the media of how we're going to grab guns than I have by actual law enforcement individuals across the state of Missouri in the past 9 months of campaigning. I don't think that the law enforcement is looking for us to infringe the rights of our citizens. I think that's a leftist media-driven narrative that I'm not going to buy into. I'm going to be the protector of rights. We're not going to let anybody come in and grab the guns of law-abiding citizens, whether it's overarching government or the federal government. We're going to protect our citizens.
Let me turn to you, Mr. Ashcroft. The St. Louis Police Association is endorsing Mr. Kehoe, but earlier this year, the Ethical Society of Police, the group that primarily represents black officers, did endorse you. And in a statement, the organization said it was because you are committed to bringing their voice to the table. So a 2-part question here for you, sir. One, Can you describe from your sense what are the unique needs of black police officers? And then secondly, the St. Louis Board of Aldermen passed a ban on open carry for those 18 and under, and police are actually praising it. They say it's having a positive effect. Could you give a message to St. Louis police officers who say they are pleased to see fewer juveniles in this case? We're not talking about adults, but juveniles in St. Louis openly carrying weapons.
Well, my message to the police is the same message that I gave to the Ethical Society of Police Officers, is that I will have their back. We will make sure that they are resourced. We will make sure that the state takes back control of the City of St. Louis Police Department, so cops don't have to go to their district and realize there's not a car that works. Or when they have to chase someone down, they have to roll down the window and open the door from the outside because the interior door handle doesn't work. We will work to make sure that we have 1,000 new officers across the state in the first year. We will work to make sure that if there is a prosecutor with a vendetta, officers get a fair shake and they can have a change of venue, maybe to Cole County, so we never see what happened in Kansas City earlier with an individual that, as far as I can tell, all he did was follow his training, and now he's in jail for 6 years. And let me just go back to red flag laws, because you never seem to ask me about that question. We should never take away someone's constitutional right unless they are adjudicated guilty in a court of law with due process for a felony. The right to bear arms is there for a reason. It protects all rights.
I do want to ask a follow-up about the statement that the Ethical Society said they are endorsing you because you are bringing their voice to the table. What is their voice? What is it that you are going to support?
They have been defunded. When the state controlled the police in St. Louis, there were 2 facilities for repairing vehicles. When the state moved out, there was just 1, and then all the city personnel vehicles went through instead of police vehicles. They don't have the budget. They don't have the legal support. They don't know that when they do the right thing, the politicians will have their back. That will change.